This is the story of Wun-Yeop, a young man raised by the Seol family, now facing a pivotal moment. He's about to duel Beom, the son of the housemaster. Their encounter is charged with tension. Wun uses his unique sword manipulation technique, warping his blade mid-attack. Seol counters with the rapid and furious Sema sword technique, showcasing his family's legacy. Wun feels exhilarated, eager to test his skills against such a formidable opponent. But before we dive deeper into their clash, let's rewind and explore how Wun arrived at this moment. The story starts within the Seol family, renowned for their mastery of the six sword trails, a vision-based technique that defines their martial prowess. On a cold winter day, fate intervened when a destitute couple abandoned their child at the gates of the Seol household. This child, Wun-Yeop, was taken in by a nanny and grew up as a servant in the household. For 10 years, Wun served diligently, observing the dynamics within the family. Over time, he came to realize that the head of the household, Seol Sadiak, was not as wise as outsiders believed. Sadiak practiced the family's secret technique every morning, a graceful display resembling a white crane dancing, which earned it the name White Crane Swordsmanship. Despite his skillful appearance, Sadiak's decisions often revealed his foolishness. One of Sadiak's most glaring flaws was his treatment of his first wife, Mingyang Lady Min. Lady Min was intelligent and insightful, often making correct decisions during critical moments. Even Wun, despite being a lowly servant, recognized her brilliance. However, Sadiak's jealousy of her intellect led him to treat her coldly over time. This hostility extended to her children as well. Lady Min's wisdom earned her respect from everyone in the household except her husband. Her influence waned as Sadiak's jealousy grew stronger. Eventually, she passed away, leaving behind a broken family, a testament to Sadiak's inability to appreciate what he had lost. Wun-Yeop's story takes a darker turn as we delve into his early years, shaped by hardship and survival. Picked up by a prison camp and forced into slavery, Wun began running errands around the town at the age of 7. This life exposed him to the struggles of the streets, where he observed children like himself, orphans with no money, stealing food to survive. The consequences of getting caught were brutal, often resulting in beatings that left them lifeless in spirit. But Wun was different. He had an uncanny ability to sense when eyes were watching him and instinctively knew how to move unnoticed. This skill allowed him to steal food, dumplings, rice cakes, pancakes, without arousing suspicion from store owners. His resourcefulness made him a leader among the village orphans, alleviating their hunger and earning their trust. Despite his efforts to help others, disaster struck when Seol discovered Wun's actions. Seol confronted him in public, kicking him when Wun tried to lie about his thefts. Wun was terrified. Seol seemed to see right through him. Angry but not heartless, Seol scolded Wun in front of a crowd to make his face known on the streets. Yet, he offered a lifeline. He promised to leave a wallet outside his house every day so Wun could buy food for the children instead of stealing. For Wun, Seol became the most fearsome figure he had ever encountered, a man who wielded both authority and compassion in equal measure. Meanwhile, turmoil brewed within the Seol family. The head of the household, Seol Sadiak, failed to recognize his son Beom's exceptional qualities as a master swordsman. Instead, Sadiak was infatuated with his new wife, Chang Sanmi, the eldest daughter of the Gansuka family. Clever and ambitious, Sanmi married into the Seol family with plans to seize power. Sanmi manipulated those around her, driving a wedge between Sadiak and Beom. What puzzled Wun was Beom's refusal to act against her despite his abilities. He could end her schemes with ease but chose not to defend himself. One day, Wun witnessed Seol Sani, the second daughter of Sadiak and Sanmi, enter Beom's room nervously, checking her surroundings as if afraid of being seen. Sensing something amiss, Wun later entered the room himself and discovered a land document planted there, a clear attempt by Sanmi to frame Beom for its disappearance. If this scheme succeeded, Beom would face ruin and disgrace. Wun realized that Sanmi had sent her daughter to execute this plan, aiming to destroy Beom's reputation and tighten her grip on the family's power. As Wun stood at the crossroads of revenge and loyalty, he hesitated for a moment. He could let the scheme against Beom unfold, avenging the humiliation he suffered when Beom caught him stealing. However, he remembered Beom's kindness, keeping his promise to provide money for the poor children. Wun admired Beom's integrity and martial prowess, which earned his respect. Deciding to act, Wun switched the scrolls, saving Beom from certain doom. A few days later, at the Xie family gathering, Seol Sadiak summoned his son Subium in a fit of rage. The land deed he had recently signed was missing, and he blamed Subium for its disappearance. However, it was clear that this was part of Chang Sanmi's plan to frame her stepson. Sammy's evil smile betrayed her intentions, and Subium sensed her scheme. Seol Sani, Sammy's daughter, claimed to have seen a scroll in Subium's room while doing laundry. Her heartlessness was evident as she enjoyed tormenting lowly servants. When the servant brought the scroll from Subium's room, everyone was shocked to find it was just a graffiti, a ridiculous drawing that depicted the first form of the vision technique of the Six Sword Trails. Subium immediately realized that John must have been the one who saved him by switching the scrolls. Later that night, John went to collect the money Subium left for him by the tree. There, he met Lady Seol Suyun, Subium's younger sister. Suyun had come to thank John for saving her brother from the land deed incident. Her gratitude was genuine, and John felt a sense of pride knowing his actions had helped someone he admired. The next day, news reached Subium that his grandmother had suddenly disappeared. As the news of the grandmother's death spread, it became clear why Subium had refrained from defending himself against Chang Sanmi. His grandmother had advised him to avoid internal conflicts within the family, emphasizing the importance of protecting their lineage as the eldest son. This was her final wish, and Subium had honored it until her passing. The grandmother's funeral was a somber affair, with Lady Suyun and Subium deeply grieving. The Xie family fell under Chang Sanmi's control, yet she surprisingly left Subium alone, seemingly waiting for the right moment to strike. About a month passed, and the seasons changed. Subium often found himself lost in thought, reflecting on his grandmother's words and the current state of his family. John, too, made preparations for what was to. One night, Subium visited the tree where he usually left money for John. As he was leaving, John appeared. John asked why Subium hadn't defended himself against Chang Sanmi and why he hadn't shown his true strength as the eldest son of an orthodox noble sect to his father. Subium explained that it was his grandmother's wish to avoid conflict, but now that she was gone, he felt no obligation to hold back. However, Subium wasn't planning to disappear completely. He intended to leave and discover new techniques to become stronger, as the forces targeting his family were deeply rooted in the martial arts world. John, though not an experienced warrior, shared some insights with Subium. He suggested combining techniques from different families to create a new style that balances offense and defense. For example, he mentioned the Baikak swordsmanship, specifically the fifth sword form of the two-sword style. This approach could help Subium break free from the limitations of orthodox sects. Before departing, Subium reminded John that if he ever stole or did anything wrong, he would be the one to punish him. He also asked John to watch over his sister Suyun and help her if she ever needed it, just as he had helped Subium. Subium jokingly asked John to continue showing interest in Suyun, leaving John blushing and confused about what he meant. With that, Subium embarked on his journey, leaving behind a sense of brotherhood and shared responsibility. As time passed, spring arrived, marking a new beginning for all involved. As spring rolls in and the days start getting warmer, it hasn't even been half a year since the young master left. But John? Man, this guy's been growing fast, like a bamboo shoot shooting up overnight. He's not just growing stronger either, he's been handling more responsibilities, running around all over the place. Every time he steps out, he makes sure to check every corner, from the village to the outer edges, making sure everything's running smoothly and the people the young master left behind are doing okay. And good news, Suyun's doing just fine. Nothing major going on with her. Unlike the young master, she's not the type to butt heads with the Chasami, so there's peace on that front. Now, John shows up with a plant the two servants had asked for. But here's where things start to shift. He finds out the Yayo family is sending someone over, and not just for a quick visit. They're planning to stay for a while. And the servants? They're whispering about a celebration happening soon. Sounds like something's brewing, right? So let's switch scenes real quick. Chang Sanmi shows up with a treasure, trying to impress Suyun. But don't let that fool you. There's a scheme behind it. Yep, Chang Sanmi is back at it, pushing hard to get Suyun married off to the young master of the Yayo family. It looks like that engagement is starting to get serious. The Yayo young master is really putting in the effort. But deep down, Suyun's not having much of a say in any of this. Meanwhile, John's out here trying to improve himself. He's secretly training, practicing white crane swordsmanship. He knows Suyun's being forced into this marriage, and even though he's just a servant, he wants to help. The problem? His status limits how much he can find out or even say. And then it happens. Seol Sang-il and his sister Seol Sani Chang Sanmi's kids catch him training. Now here's the thing. John's a servant. Technically, he has no right to be learning martial arts. Sang-il snatches the tree branch John was using and just whacks him with it. John doesn't fight back. He knows if he resists, things will only get worse. So he takes it, clenches his jaw, and stays quiet. But when Sang-il goes in for another strike, John's instincts kick in. He dodges. Quick. Clean. And boom, Sang-il loses balance and hits the ground. That just made things worse. His sister, Sani, jumps in and immobilizes John. And then Sang-il just loses it, starts beating on him like a madman, throwing punches, kicks, wherever he can land them. Lying there, taking the hits, John's thoughts start to drift. He's thinking about the young master, about the responsibility he left behind, about Soo-yeon, about whether he's failing them. And in that moment, just when things seem like they couldn't get any worse, Soo-yeon steps in. She shows up, saving him in the nick of time. Later on, John wakes up. He opens his eyes and sees his grandpa right there, taking care of him. And to his surprise, his body doesn't hurt as much as he thought it would. Turns out, Soo-yeon used one of her techniques to ease his pain. His grandpa could see right through him. He knew John had feelings for Soo-yeon, or at least a deep interest in her. So he starts teasing him, throwing little jokes here and there. But John, being sharp, starts connecting the dots. He realizes his grandpa might have gone through something similar. So he asks him straight up, was he also in love with someone? And that hit home. Because yes, Grandpa Hwang had once loved someone from the Seol family deeply. So now, John decides to tell him everything. Everything that's been going on in the Seol family. The land document between Chang Sanmi and the young master. The shady stuff Seol Sang-il and his sister Seol Sani have been doing. And of course, Soo-yeon's sudden engagement news. The whole truth. Hwang listens carefully, taking it all in. He understands what John's been dealing with. But he also notices John's still in pain. That's when he explains Soo-yeon's technique helped prevent blood clots, especially since John's ribs were damaged. So yeah, he was spared from the worst part of the pain. Then Grandpa Hwang does something unexpected. He teaches John a breathing technique. Just simple, focused breathing. And John tries it for the first time. After a few steady breaths, something changes. The pain starts to fade. His body feels lighter. Energy starts flowing again. John's amazed. It really works. Then Hwang shares a story. Back when he was a wanderer, he met this strange old man in the mountains. Give him some raisins and alcohol, and in return, that old man handed him a book. Inside it, this exact breathing technique. And now, Hwang passes that book to John. And just like that, my friends, our boy is on the path to becoming a powerhouse. Hwang smiles, happy that the young master recognized John and trusted him enough to leave everything in his hands. Then he leaves John to it. John opens the book and starts reading. The first words hit different. There is heaven and earth, and there are people in them. People are born and live imbued with the energy of heaven and earth. By aligning and merging with this energy, they can have control over all things. The book is full of strange phrases like that. Deep stuff. Metaphors, philosophy, wisdom. It goes on, all the way to the margins. But the moment John reads that one specific sentence, everything clicks. He suddenly understands the heart of the old man who wrote this book. The old man had been born too weak, so he gave up everything to chase after strength. He left behind this breathing technique as the core foundation of his power. And his message? Those seeking strength can, through continuous training, achieve feats as formidable as uprooting Mount Tail. So, John's all in now. He starts training hard, fully focused on mastering these breathing techniques. And at first, it goes smoothly. He reaches the 6th technique, but that's when things get serious. The next steps aren't easy anymore. They're on a whole new level. And right in the middle of all that, Miss Soo-yeon shows up. She came by just to check on him, make sure he's okay. She doesn't stay long, but before she leaves, she drops off some medicine for him. Just like that quiet care, then she's gone. John doesn't waste time. He gets right back into his training. He's locked in. The day fades, and night falls before he even notices. Then his grandpa walks in. And at that moment, John realizes something: his coccyx, the pain that had been bugging him, gone. Not even a hint of discomfort left. That's how powerful the breathing technique is. Now, Grandpa Hwang decides to share a story. Something Noma once told him. There were 2 powerful families fighting for control over Honam Castle. One was the Meteor Sword Gate, led by a legendary figure named Demoniac. The other was the White Dragon Fortress, smaller, less known, and underestimated. Everyone expected Meteor Sword Gate to win. Even the Baekdo Alliance was sure of it. But guess what? That's not what happened. The White Dragon Fortress, with its strange and unconventional martial arts, pulled off a shocking victory. Meteor Sword Gate backed off, retreated to their own territory, and the two families, they vanished, as if they'd absorbed each other and disappeared from the world completely. But here's the twist. The successor of White Dragon Fortress has appeared again, recently. And if that's true, then the Yayo family might be that successor. Which would mean Chang Sanmi isn't just being sneaky, she's got a plan. That marriage she's pushing between Soo-yeon and the Yayo family's young prince? It's all part of this alliance. A power play. And Grandpa Huang knows all this because Noma told him. She's smart. Someone Huang really respects. And now, he's decided to go find her. He's leaving to dig deeper into the truth about the Yayo family. Before he leaves, he shows John a special outfit, a gift Noma had once given him. Then early the next morning, Huang sets out on his journey. Now think about that. With Grandpa gone, and Noma somewhere out there, only Miss Soo-yeon is left behind. She's the only one still close by. John, knowing all this, keeps training. He keeps pushing himself to master the breathing techniques. And during those quiet moments, he thinks about everything that's happened. All the twists, the schemes, the pain, the pressure, and he realizes he can't turn back now. He has to keep moving forward, no matter what. Then one day, Uncle Jong-won comes to visit. He brings news. Before leaving, Huang told him something important. If I don't come back after a few days, give John the special outfit I showed him. Hearing that, everything clicks. John knows something might have happened to his grandpa. So, it turns out, even the person who had been tricking Chang Sanmi for decades was found out just like that. Which means one thing, Chang Sanmi is cleaning house. She's trying to wipe out all traces of the Kam Seok-seol family before Soo-yeon's marriage goes through. And with the young master gone, she can easily move against Grandpa Huang. And John? Yeah, he knows. It's only a matter of time before he becomes the next target. So, he acts fast. He puts on the outfit Grandpa Huang left for him. That special one. And he starts making his move. First, John writes a diary for Soo-yeon. In it, he apologizes. He says, "I'm sorry I couldn't help you directly." And he lets her know, by the time she reads those words, he'll already be gone from the Kam Seok-seol family. Then he drops the big warning. The person she's being forced to marry? They're hiding their true identity. They're dangerous. So he begs her run. Escape the Kam Seok-seol family. Go somewhere safe. Before leaving, John does something that shows his heart. He visits the villagers, every single one of them, and hands out coins. A lot of them. Enough to settle everything. His debts, his guilt, his promises. He wanted to leave with nothing holding him back. Meanwhile, Chang Sanmi hears the news she's been waiting for. Grandpa Huang is dead. He died without giving up any information. And with that, she finally becomes the lady of the Kam Seok-seol family. She stands tall and says it. This is just the beginning. We're finally going to achieve what we need to. 5 days later. John's deep in the forest. No one's followed him. It's quiet. So he decides to rest. Just for today. But even while resting, he doesn't skip his training. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He needs at least 2 years to master the breathing techniques. So the plan? Simple. Train. Get stronger. Then go find Lady Soo-yeon. And finally, track down his enemies, one by one. 2 years later, we catch 2 servants whispering to each other. The whole place has been gloomy for a while. First, the eldest son, Soo-beom, disappeared. Then not long after, the eldest daughter vanished too. It's like the family just started crumbling piece by piece. But now, after all this time, guess who's back? Soo-beom. Yeah, he finally enters the scene again. But hold on. Before we get into what he's doing now, let's take a look at the current situation. In the world of martial arts, a lot of people who walk the path of evil get corrupted during their training. They give in to their desires, fall into chaos, and start committing all sorts of terrible things. They become enemies of the Murim. They lose control of their inner power. Some of them even destroy themselves or get hunted down and executed. But not all of them fall that way. There are a few who follow the unorthodox path but still live with strong will and dignity. Out of the top 10 martial arts masters alive today, only 2 come from that unorthodox path: Jae-wee, the unorthodox hero, and his rival, the righteous demon. The rest? All from the orthodox faction. But even so, every single one of them has reached the peak of their skills. Their presence alone shows how strong and bright their inner nature is, even compared to the few in the unorthodox world who've held onto their sense of self. And now, welcome to the Heavenly Demon Fortress. This is where the righteous demon himself, Gal Minhyeok, lives. Right now, he's sitting down and playing Go with his granddaughter, Gal Minran. She's on her third win in a row. He had promised her, if she wins, he'll start teaching her martial arts. But it's kinda obvious Minhyeok is stalling. He doesn't want his granddaughter stepping into the life of a martial artist. Maybe he's trying to protect her from it. That's when Subium shows up at the fortress. He's there to challenge Minhyeok. When someone asks his name, he replies, Musbong, a musbong of nothingness. Clearly, he's hiding who he really is. But he doesn't come in aggressive. He says straight up, he never dared to fight the lord of this place. What he wants is enlightenment. Whatever form it might take, he's searching for something within these walls. Minhyeok doesn't turn him down. He tells Subium, I'll accept your challenge, but only if you can beat me in a game of Baduk. See, this isn't some random test. The Baduk match is something every challenger has to go through if they want to step into the Heavenly Demon Fortress. Back in the day, when people were lining up to try and conquer this place, Gal Minhyeok created this preliminary challenge. To most people, it might just seem like a regular board game. But if you really understand it, Baduk is like a battle, a war of numbers, a fight of the mind. You have to understand your opponent's intentions, read their moves, and strike at their weaknesses. It's about gaining ground, defending it, and not letting your emotions slip. One wrong move, and boom, you're cornered. Defeated. Before they start, Minhyeok lets him know only one person in the entire martial world has ever beaten him at Baduk. His granddaughter, Minran. And even she only won by half a house. That's how close it was. And then the game begins. Time goes on, and Subium loses the first of the best-of-3 match. That means if he loses the next one, it's over. But Subium's not going down easy. In this second match, he's like a wolf, calm, sharp, and guarding his territory with everything he's got. Minhyeok, just by sensing the level of Subium's internal energy cultivation, could tell something big. The energy flowing through Subium was refined through the righteous path. That alone was enough to suggest Subium came from a distinguished, well-known family. But even with all that potential, when the next moves came in the Baduk match, Minhyeok won the second game. That means Subium was defeated. Subium accepted his loss gracefully. He didn't argue, didn't complain. Instead, he spoke calmly, saying that even though he lost, he believed that by coming here and putting himself through this challenge, he would still gain great enlightenment on his own. That's when Minhyeok called for his granddaughter, Minran. So now, instead of sparring against Minhyeok, Subium had to face Minran, the one who had been learning directly under her grandfather's teachings. Minran didn't hesitate. She was actually pretty chill about it. She agreed to take on the challenge, but only on one condition. If she accepts this request and fights Subium, her grandpa has to start teaching her martial arts properly and diligently every single day starting next week. Minhyeok agreed. Time passed, and the day of the sparring match finally arrived. The place? Motto Castle. And it was packed. Absolutely full. A huge crowd had gathered, not just any crowd, but filled with people whose auras were crazy strong. Even though everyone was calm at the moment, their energy flowed like gentle waves, you could feel it. But if chaos broke out inside those castle walls, that calm energy could turn into a violent tidal wave in seconds. The only reason things stayed under control was because Lord Gal Minhyeok was there, keeping it all in check. Before the match began, Minran turned to Subium and asked to take the first move since he was more experienced than her. Subium agreed. And just like that, Minran made the first move. She dashed in fast, launching an attack. Subium blocked it, but right away he noticed something. Her swordsmanship had serious precision. She wasn't just swinging wild. Then, Minran used his own shoulder to leap behind him and came at him from the back. Subium tried to counter quickly, but Minran was already adapting. She dodged his counter just in time. Then she took a stance, ready for her next technique. Minran dashed forward again, this time unleashing the snow cloud sword straight at Subium. In the crowd watching all of this unfold was Myong Jiahe, the demon of the snow mountain. And he's impressed, because he's the one who taught her that technique. Seeing her pull it off so smoothly was a proud moment for him. But even with all that skill, Subium didn't flinch. That blade came close, real close, but he stayed calm. He wasn't just standing there frozen either. He was reading her, watching every move, every feint, every shift in her body. And when she struck, he reacted with insane speed, adapting on the fly. No panic, no hesitation. His eyes were locked in, searching for the smallest weakness. And then boom, Subium copied her stance. He had only been watching her technique for a few seconds, and just like that, he pulled off the snow cloud sword against her. Yeah, her own move. Minran barely avoided the counter. She jumped into the air and launched another attack, switching up to the seven swords of Yuma. Her blade lit up with electricity and she went all in. The clash that followed was intense, and in the end, Minran came out on top. She won that round. But here's the twist. Don't get fooled. Subium let her win. He lost on purpose. You'll see why soon enough. Just hang in there. After the match, both of them showed each other respect like true martial artists. Then Min Hyuk turned to Subium and told him to show gratitude to the creators of the Snow Cloud Sword and the Seven Swords of Yuma. Why? Because, yeah, Subium had just mimicked both techniques after seeing them once. That's not normal. These are techniques that take years to master. And then right there in front of everyone, Subium used the Seven Swords of Yuma again. No hesitation. He even said, if the original creators of these techniques think he's stealing, then fine, he'll vow never to use them again. That's some serious respect. Then things got interesting. Min Hyuk used telepathy to talk directly to Subium, but in front of the crowd, he kept acting. He asked out loud, do you want to master the art of stealth under my guidance? Will you take me as your master? But Subium said no. He rejected the offer on the spot, and it looked like it made Min Hyuk furious. But hold up, this was all part of the act. The real conversation? Yeah, that was happening through telepathy, away from the crowd's ears. So, right after Subium rejected Min Hyuk's offer, Min Hyuk exploded with rage. Like real fury. He unleashed his terrifying aura and struck Subium with his palm. And the force from that single palm was so powerful, it sent Subium flying several meters back like he was weightless. Min Hyuk, still acting enraged in front of everyone, started yelling. He claimed Subium had insulted his master, spat on the honor of the heavenly demon fortress, and relied only on talent while seeing the world through a narrow lens. Then he gave the order, told his servants to drag Subium out and throw him into Sangam-san Mountain. Later, when the servants did just that, Subium woke up. And right there in his hands was the secret manual of the Seven Swords of Yuma. Yeah, the actual manual. Which meant one thing, he now had to officially acknowledge Woo Sung-kwak as his master. Now, let's break down why they were even acting like this in the first place. While all that drama was playing out, Min Hyuk was actually speaking to Subium through telepathy. He told him to stay quiet and just listen. He explained that if the truth ever came out right now, more than half the martial artists in the Heavenly Demon Fortress would rush to kill Subium without even hesitating. That's how serious it was. So Min Hyuk asked him to keep everything a secret, at least until people could understand the whole situation. That's why he helped him escape safely, by making it look like he was banished. Turns out, Min Hyuk had a strong suspicion, or maybe even a vision, that Subium was from the Kamseok family. That's why he decided to help him in the first place. Subium also made one thing clear. As someone who received the Aura Realm salvation through transmission before the Martial Alliance, his first master is from the Martial Alliance. So now, Woo Sung-kwak becomes his second master. Alright, now let's jump to what's happening on John's side. John's still out there training, swinging a tree branch as part of his sword practice. But something's bothering him. Every time he goes for the final stance, his sword trembles. It's unstable, and he doesn't get why. Then out of nowhere, that white fox shows up again. Yup, the same one that's been appearing during his training sessions lately. This time, it lunges at him and straight up steals his beef. Not cool. But that's when John starts noticing something. The fox is moving with tiny, short steps, light and quick. It's not using much force with its feet, just gliding with its toes. No pressure on the soles. And suddenly, it hits him. Maybe swordsmanship isn't about putting strength into the palm, but into the fingertips. He tries it out, and boom, the sword moves way more naturally in the direction he wants. That simple realization changes everything. After wrapping up his sword training, John shifts back to breathing practice. Turns out, he's now accumulating inner energy even better than he expected. He's leveling up, big time. But now there's a new problem. John's trying to create a great martial technique, but no matter how clean or precise his sword swings are, it always ends up as just a single sword stroke. One slash, nothing more. Then a butterfly floats around him. John swings his sword left, then right. But the butterfly keeps dodging, effortlessly. And just like with the fox, another spark hits him. The answer lies in the butterfly's movement. So, a whole year passes. John's out there, still refining his sword technique, repeating those movements until the tip of his sword felt as light as a butterfly's wing. Every swing, every motion, perfectly controlled. The trajectory wasn't just something he practiced, it became the core of his new sword style. A technique that doesn't rely on the shape or power of the sword, but purely on the flow of its path. Clean, elegant, deadly. He showed it off by performing the first stance, then the second, then the third, and when he reached the fourth stance, the tree branch he used as a sword snapped into pieces. He didn't break it by force. It simply couldn't withstand his refined technique anymore. It had reached the end of its lifespan. That's how precise and powerful he'd become. Now that John had gotten stronger, it was time to move on. Time to resume his journey. As he was leaving the mountain, the white fox returned, and this time, she brought company. Looks like they decided to make John's old cave their home now. It had already been 3 years since John left the Seol family. Soo-yeon, the girl he left behind, probably disappeared by now. But John hadn't forgotten the promise he made. It was time to fulfill that revenge and make his move to conquer the world. His next destination? The Golden City. Now, let's talk about this place. The Golden City Escort Agency, one of the top 10 escort agencies in Hanam. They were well known for transporting anything, no matter the size or type. In that line of work, reputation is everything. Trust is your currency. But then came the disaster. One day, an item entrusted to the agency was stolen, without anyone noticing. Someone secretly switched it out. Then attacks during missions started happening more and more often. The agency's leader couldn't take it anymore. He went out himself to reclaim their honor. But he was ambushed by unknown forces and got fatally injured. He didn't make it. From there, everything fell apart. The Golden City Escort Agency started to collapse, and one by one, the other major escort agencies followed. Then came the Blue Dragon Bureau. They started taking over territory, bit by bit, like they were setting the stage for something bigger. A full-on conspiracy. The Golden City Escort Agency? Barely hanging on now. It's just a name at this point. Now we meet the current head of the agency, Song Yeoju. She's holding things together the best she can. Her brother, Song Yeohoon, the vice head, tells her that 2 skilled men have shown up looking for work. And yeah, you already know who they are. John and his new ally, the sword ghost, Eom Hanpil. How they met? We'll get into that soon. But for now, just know they've got history. Yeoju sits down with them and explains the mission. They need to guard and escort a single empty carriage. Sounds simple, right? But there's more to it. They've been attacked so many times that they've lost both their cargo and their reputation. Yeoju's doing this more to honor her late father. He was badly injured while protecting their goods. This mission isn't about money. It's about legacy. John listens, then cuts in. He tells her this plan won't work. No matter how determined she is, gathering the fallen escort agencies again with just a symbolic gesture won't be enough. And just as he says that, he senses something. Trouble. He steps outside. 8 assassins are lurking, ready to take out Yeoju and her brother. Who sent them? The Blue Dragon Bureau, of course. They charge him, and John doesn't even break a sweat. He reads their moves like an open book and wipes them out instantly. 1 strike, 1 kill. No hesitation. Then Hanpil joins the fight, backing him up, and together they finish off the rest like it's nothing. So after slicing through those assassins like it was nothing, Yeoju finally realized these 2 aren't just any random mercenaries. They're real experts. Deadly ones. She sat back down, ready to continue the conversation they started earlier. Her brother, Yeohoon, couldn't believe his eyes. Sitting right in front of him was none other than Eom Hanpil. Yeah, that Eom Hanpil. The sword ghost. The guy who took down the northern twin ghosts in Sundiak-ho like it was child's play. Total legend. But where's John during all this? He had stepped out to check the surroundings, probably making sure there weren't more goons lurking around. Now Hanpil, he's got this funny little nickname for John. He calls him the Butterfly Man. Why? Because he saw John in action once, pulling off a technique so smooth, so graceful, that it literally looked like he was summoning butterflies during the fight. So Hanpil starts telling the story of how they first met. This was just 2 months ago. Back then, John had just ascended the mountain. And what did he do first? He started snatching pockets and getting rich through shady gambling spots. Straight up hustler mode. And guess what? Hanpil was one of the unlucky guys who got his pocket picked. When he realized it, he was furious. So he marched up to John, ready to teach him a lesson. Hanpil charged in, swinging hard. But John? He blocked the attack like it was nothing. Then Hanpil kept going strike after strike, trying to land a clean hit. But John was adapting, dodging everything, reading every move. Calm as ever. Hanpil got frustrated, pulled out a big, wide-open slash to finish it. But John dodged it too, like he saw it coming a mile away. At that point, John could tell this guy wasn't just some hothead. Hanpil had skill. So John proposed a bet. If Hanpil won, John would hand over all the gambling money and spill every piece of information he knew. But if John won, then Hanpil had to stick by his side, no complaints, for 6 whole months. Hanpil agreed. And with that, the bet was on. John took his stance, summoned his energy, and launched into his move, blood butterfly sword technique, sword form, fluttering wind. So John dashed forward, and Hanpil froze for a second. This technique, he had never seen anything like it. A butterfly technique? What even is that? But before he could wrap his head around it, bam, John had him on the ground. Just like that. The fight was over. John won. Lying there, Hanpil asked him straight up, "Where are you from? What sect teaches something like that?" He was seriously confused. He'd never even heard of such a style. John didn't want to blow his cover, so he had to make something up on the spot. He told him the technique was based on something called the grading breathing technique. Basically, it's a medical book he once found. Not a martial arts manual, not a secret scroll, just a book. He used it to build up his inner power. No master, no sect, no lineage. He even admitted the book didn't have a name, so he just gave it one. That's John for you, making power out of nothing. And that's how their friendship started. Hanpil and John bonded through a brawl and a bet. Now back in the present, Yeoju properly thanked them for saving her and her brother earlier. Then she explained her goal. She wants to travel across Hanam and restore the Golden City Escort Agency to its former glory. That's her mission. As a gesture of gratitude, she offered John and Hanpil the house they were staying in. She even said she'd cover the mortgage debt still tied to it. But John shook his head. He wasn't interested. He pointed out that even if she cleared the debt and tried to sell it, the profit wouldn't even cover a few thousand niang in silver. But that wasn't even the real issue. The real problem? Deals that involve risking human lives, they're always a losing game, no matter how sweet they sound. So instead, John asked for something else. He wanted her to help him turn the Golden City Escort Agency into a place that pays people fairly, a place that can grow strong and provide real support. Her success would help him down the line. That's what he cared about, not the house. Then he pulled out a promissory note. Not just any note, one from the Infinite Bank. He handed it to her and said, "Use this. Pay off the loan on the house. Cover tomorrow's interest too." She was shocked. Why was he going so far to help them? John just smiled and said, "My goal will take time. If the Golden City Escort Agency rises again and helps me later, then that's a strong ally. Think of this as an investment." So, Kwak Chio, the leader of the Azure Dragon Bureau, just got some bad news from his vice leader, Kwak Jiairiang. The assassination attempt on Yeoju and her brother? Total failure. Chio wasn't having it. He didn't even order a hit in the first place. His orders were simple: monitor, not kill. But Jiairiang tried to defend himself, saying he acted because of the 2 skilled martial artists now protecting Yeoju and her brother. But Chio wasn't impressed. He stared him down and gave a new order: handle this yourself. No more mistakes. So Jiairiang got to work. He disguised himself as a regular citizen and headed to the Golden City to start his investigation. And that's when he spotted them, Yeoju, walking through the streets with John and Hanpil by her side. He started tailing them quietly through the crowd. But John? He wasn't easy to fool. He sensed the presence right away. He leaned over to Hanpil and told him to split off and keep Yeoju safe. John, on the other hand, moved forward on purpose, luring Jiairiang into following him. And it worked. John stopped and turned around. Time to end this. Jiairiang didn't waste a second. He dashed in, ready to strike. John met him head-on, swinging a punch. Jiairiang managed to dodge it at the very last second. But that punch? It had pressure. Enough to rattle him. Shocked by the sheer force behind it, Jiairiang quickly countered with his own technique, Ghost Shadow Claw. It's not just any technique. He's mastered it up to the 8th stage, meaning every movement is precise, every strike is deadly. Jiairiang managed to dodge another punch from John and then grabbed his arm, but John wasn't having it. He immediately unleashed his energy, forming a protective layer around himself. Without wasting time, he split that energy and launched a relentless counterattack, putting serious pressure on Jiairiang. In response, Jiairiang tried to fight back using his ghost shadow claws, but John kept reading and dodging them like it was nothing. That's when something clicked. John spotted the weak points in Jiairiang's technique, dashed in, and used Jiairiang's own move against him. Yeah, you heard that right. He straight up copied his opponent's technique mid-fight. Watching from the side, Hanpil and Yeoju were completely stunned. But John knew his limits. He's not built for hand-to-hand combat. So he picked up a branch and used it like a sword. As Jiairiang charged again in a fit of rage, John smashed him right in the jaw, then unleashed his signature moves, Blood Butterfly Sword technique, Instant Strike, followed by Blood Butterfly Rampage. That combo brought Jiairiang crashing down. John looked him in the eye and said if they're planning to kill him, next time they better send someone stronger. That lit a fire under Jiairiang, who lunged again, but John countered clean and sent him flying into the dirt. That was it. John stood tall, the clear winner. Hanpil suggested finishing off Jiairiang right there, but John wasn't up for that. He wanted to avoid unnecessary trouble. Then Hanpil pointed out something interesting. He said he's one of the top 100 masters in high-sensitivity technique, but John still wasn't quite on that level when it comes to detecting opponents. Hearing that, John suddenly remembered that Chang Sanmi had used that same high-sensitivity technique before. That made him think. Hanpil didn't stop there. He told John that if he really wants to fight properly, you should start using his sword more seriously. That's when John realized something big. To fully bring out the power of his blood spiral technique, he needed a sword that's not just any sword. It had to be flexible, something unique, something that could move with him. So he made up his mind and went straight to a weapon shop. Inside the shop, John checked out all kinds of weapons, spears, maces, swords, you name it. While he was looking, the shop owner came up to him and noticed something strange. John had picked up all the weapons made by the owner's son, not a single one made by the owner himself. The old man was surprised. John explained that, for some reason, the weapons made by the son just felt better, more refined. The owner smiled and said only people who can hear the breathing of Byeongi could tell the difference. Then he shared the story behind his son, how the young man was once so crazy in love with a woman that he threw down his hammer and ran away in the middle of the night. And now, he might be chained up in some crypt, forced to use a hammer again. Moved by the story, the owner gave John a weird, flexible sword. He gave it for free. He said it's been a long time since he spoke about this, and now that he did, he felt a bit lighter. But John didn't just take the sword and leave. He made a promise. If he ever came across the blacksmith's son, he would rescue him, no matter what. After that, John started training with the new sword, and now, for the first time, he could really bring out the full potential of the blood spiral technique. Then, Song Yeohoon came to his sister, letting her know the city had returned to normal. But they both knew that as long as thugs and demons still roamed, peace wouldn't last forever. That's when Yeoju stood up and made it clear they were heading out. The next journey was about to begin. Yeoju gathered both John and Hanpil and told them it's time to get ready for their escort journey. But before they head out, she wanted to know their stories, not just as their leader but also as a friend. Since she and her brother are technically their masters for now, she figured it's only fair to understand who they really are. John kept it short. He said he was picked up by a servant from a noble family and raised as a servant himself. But because of some events, he had to leave that place without even getting the chance to repay the one person who showed him kindness. He added something deep. He said that person was the first one who helped him see the world through her eyes. When Hanpil asked him why he trained in swordsmanship, John said it's because there's someone he wants to challenge and defeat if they ever meet again. Straight to the point. Then it was Hanpil's turn to talk. But instead of answering, he suddenly said he needed to go to the bathroom. Except he didn't go to the bathroom at all. He actually went to meet his squad. That's right, Hanpil has his own thing going on. Turns out, he had sent his squad out to track down certain people. The update he got was that one of them is heading toward Mudong Mountain, but they still haven't found the other one. It looks like that person hasn't come down from the mountains yet. And apparently, Hanpil's been searching for these martial artists for the past 3 years. He handed over a letter and told his squad to deliver it toward Mudong Mountain. One of the guys from the squad suggested maybe John is the person they're looking for. But Hanpil shut that down quick. He said the person he's looking for is a Shaolin martial artist, and John? He's a swordsman, not a Shaolin expert. Then he took out a necklace and reminded his squad that their enemy is someone they can only face when they're all together again. So yeah, Han Pil's got a much bigger plan going on behind the scenes. Now let's shift scenes for a second to the Seokian alliance. Their current martial arts leader is Yael-san. Yep, the same guy Soo-yeon was supposed to marry. Jin Jaeun showed up to report that the Azure Dragon Bureau failed their mission. Yael was clearly interested in the man who beat Jiairiang, that man being John. So he gave a new order: send the 3 devils of the North Forest after him. On top of that, Yael was still bitter. He said thanks to that lowly woman, he's now the laughingstock of the entire alliance. That woman, of course, is Soo-yeon. So he gave Jin Jaeun another order: keep searching for her. Before Jin Jaeun left, Yael made one thing clear: he wants no more failures this time. So, Han Pil's still feeling the effects of his drinking from yesterday, and John's telling him to pull himself together. Right then, one of Han Pil's squad members shows up. John notices him, but acts like he didn't, playing it cool. Han Pil pretends to have a stomachache and heads off to meet with his squad. The squad member tells them that one of the people they've been tracking is heading this way. The problem? She's being chased by assassins from the Black Killers. This person turns out to be really important to Han Pil, so he decides they need to rescue her right away. Her name? Hyo-young. Now, to understand how she ended up in this mess, let's rewind time 10 days. Hyo-young was just having a meal in a food store when a rich guy approached her. He wanted to take her sword. The situation escalated fast, and Hyo-young humiliated him right there in front of everyone, mocking him. Of course, this pissed him off, and he hired assassins to go after her. And now, she's being chased down. Back to the present, Hyo-young stops to face her pursuers, and that's when an old man steps out from behind a tree. She hesitates because she doesn't want to kill a regular citizen, but it turns out the old man is no citizen. He's an assassin too. He tries to throw a kunai at her, but thankfully, John arrives just in time to save her. One of the assassins lunges at him, but John takes him down without breaking a sweat. The 2 remaining assassins try to flee, but Han Pil steps in, blocking one and taking him out too. Meanwhile, John heads off after the assassin woman who's trying to escape. Now, Han Pil pulls out his necklace and shows it to Hyo-young, asking if she has the same one. And yes, she does. Looks like there's a bigger story behind these necklaces than anyone thought. As John chases the assassin woman, she throws invisible needles at him. But John's quick. He catches them and even manages to send one back at her, injuring her in the process. He examines the needles closely and realizes they're made in a special way. He demands to know where these weapons came from. So, the woman tries to dodge John's question, but John isn't letting her off the hook. He points out his name, Jongri Jae-jong, and mentions that he's the son of the owner who gave him his sword for free. That gets the woman to smile, and she tells John that the clueless fool will end up spending his whole life pounding a hammer in the dungeon until he dies. Before she kills herself, she warns John that the Black Killers will chase him to the ends of hell. John doesn't let that faze him, and soon, he rejoined Han Pil and Hyo-young. Han Pil then explains that Hyo-young is his sister, and that's why he came to her rescue when he heard she was in danger. After that, they all head back to the Golden City. When they get there, Han Pil introduces his sister to Yeoju and her brother, and asks if it's okay for Hyo-young to stay with them for a while. Han Pil mentions that she's a skilled martial artist, and Yeoju agrees to let her stay. Han Pil also drops a bombshell. Hyo-young's being pursued by an assassin organization. On top of that, Hyo-young recently defeated one of the top experts from the Azure Dragon Bureau. Then John steps up and asks Yeoju if she can stay in the Golden City while they handle the escort journey. But Yeoju immediately refuses. She explains that since they've helped her so far, their problems are now her problems. She adds that without the agency leader, the significance of the journey would be lost. Yeoju wants to engrave in her heart the value of the name she's trying to protect through this journey. Now, here's where things get interesting. They're setting off on the empty carriage procession. It's literally an empty carriage with a Golden City escort agency flag. The whole point of this journey is that the agency leader and the escorts are the ones driving it, making it all about their presence. As John leaves the central area, anyone who intends to harm the Golden City escort agency will show their hand. Meanwhile, Song Yeoju, Yeoju's brother, decides to stay at the mansion to take care of their father and the refugees. Now, it's the 5th day of the empty carriage procession, and so far, nothing's happened. John's dealing with a small issue, though. Kyo-young's been using informal language, and they're getting distracted, babbling nonsense. But just as things seem too quiet, the carriage suddenly stops. And guess what? The three devils of the North Forest, who were sent by Yayul, have finally arrived. Here come the three devils of the North Forest. They're all old, but they still give off this powerful aura. First up, we have the demon lord of the withered trees, Deng Sunlag. He charges at Hanpil, and Hanpil tries to counter, but Sunlag just dodges the attack like it's nothing. The fight continues to intensify, and Kyo-young wants to jump in and help, but John stops her, telling her to wait until the other two make their move. John takes one look at these guys and senses they have some connection to the Yayul family. Sunlag starts mocking Hanpil, calling him out for working under a poor woman. That really hits a nerve, and Hanpil loses his cool, swinging his sword wildly. Sunlag takes advantage, leaping into the air to land a fatal blow. But just as he's about to strike, John steps in, slashing midair and saving Hanpil from certain defeat. Talk about a close call. Then, we get introduced to two more of the devils. There's one Gahu, the benevolent smile, who's got a spear mace ready. He's clearly interested in John after hearing that John beat Jiairiang. Then, there's Jok Palgyu, the crimson blaze demon's palm, who's all fired up for the fight. The two of them lunge at John together, but John's quick on his feet and dodges their combined attacks with ease. That's when Kyo-young decides to jump in. She uses her cloud ladder art technique to help John, turning the tide of the battle. Now the odds have shifted. John's locked in a battle with one Gahu, while Kyo-young faces off against Jok Palgyu. The fight's intense, but even though John doesn't have as much experience, he's holding his own. Kyo-young's also doing well against the Crimson Blaze Demon's palm. But then, Hanpil decides to step in and help his sister. He tries to cut Palgyu with his sword, but Palgyu blocks the attack using his blazing hands. He doesn't stop there. He cranks up the pressure, forcing Hanpil to step back. Then, Palgyu goes all in. He unleashes his Red Flames technique at Hanpil and Kyo-young. Hanpil manages to block it, but the flames still burn his hands. Seeing her brother in trouble, Kyo-young doesn't hesitate. She gathers all her strength and uses her cloud ladder art technique, landing a clean hit on Palgyu, taking him down. Just as things seem to calm down, Yeoju steps out of the carriage to check on what's happening. And that's when one Gahu seizes the opportunity, making his move to attack her. Just as one Gahu was about to strike Yeoju, John stepped in with his blood spiral technique, first stance, and stopped the attack, saving Yeoju. One Gahu didn't back down, though. He immediately went on the offensive, attacking John with everything he had. John saw an opening and tried to land a fatal blow to Gahu's heart, but Gahu was quick, blocking the attack. John didn't hesitate. He followed up with the second technique, Blood Spiral Whirlwind, and took Gahu's arm off, determined to end this fight. But he wasn't done. He went all out with the third technique, Blood Spiral Scattering Petals, finally bringing Gahu to the ground. But even as Gahu was on his last breath, he had one final card to play. Before he died, he activated his spear mace, which exploded, sending spikes flying everywhere. John managed to block the incoming spikes, but it was thanks to Hanpil that the remaining ones were stopped, saving both his sister and Yeoju. The group finally took a moment to catch their breath, but before they could relax, another carriage rolled up. Hanpil, sensing something was off, confronted the man and woman who stepped out of the carriage, demanding to verify their identity. As soon as Yeoju saw them, she recognized who they were. It was her uncle Sakbu and Jurong. It's been 5 years since Yeoju last saw her uncle, and when she laid eyes on him again, she learned his name was Samwon Jingle, the sworn brother of Song Ilsun, the chief of the Golden City Escort Agency. The woman with him, Jean Jurayong, was the eldest daughter of the Dead Sea Bureau. Now, if you're wondering about the Dead Sea Bureau, let me break it down for you. It's one of the 3 remaining Pyaguks in Hanam, along with the Golden City Escort Agency and the Azure Dragon Bureau. Upon hearing about the troubles the Golden City Escort Agency was facing, Song Yunju sent Jurayong, who she knows well, along with some trusted envoys to help. Jurayong then asked Yeoju to come with her to the Dead Sea Bureau, as her father insisted on bringing her back. After some thought, Yeoju agreed. It's been so long since she last saw her uncle. She also took the time to explain the whole situation to them. Her uncle, feeling guilty for not being there to help, apologized, but he assured her that he was now offering his help. Yeoju, however, reassured him that she was fine and asked him to go back to Golden City, where her father and brother were. With them there, she could continue her journey with peace of mind. She even trusted her master escorts, knowing their skills were unmatched by anyone. After taking a good look at the escorts, Jingle trusted Yeoju's judgment and agreed to return to Golden City. With that, the squad made their way to the Dead Sea Bureau, where they arrived safely. Now, we need to switch to the next early morning. Over in the Dead Sea Bureau, Jin Yutak, the eldest son of the Dead Sea Bureau, was walking alone when a mysterious figure approached him. This mysterious figure had one clear goal: to kidnap Jin Yutak. Now, let's take a step back and focus on Ju Jae-sung. He's the leader of the Black Tortoise Pavilion's Blue Fan Unit. Jae-sung is the mastermind behind Jin Yutak's kidnapping, and he's doing it to become the new leader of the Dead Sea Bureau. Mok Dae-min, who is working alongside Jae-sung, arrived to inform him that Chu Daohwa had successfully managed to kidnap Jin Yutak. This is huge, and here's why. Chu Daohwa comes from the Kamseok family, the same family John served under. This means Chu Daohwa is connected to Chasami, and we're going to uncover more about this as the story unfolds. Now, let's return to the Dead Sea Bureau, where our squad has safely arrived. Jin Sang-gon, the lord of the Dead Sea Bureau, informed his daughter Juryeong that her brother had gone missing. What's strange is that the same thing just happened in Golden City, and now it's happening here in the Dead Sea Bureau. This means these events are connected, and John, being sharp as always, began analyzing the situation. Just then, Mok Dae-min arrived, asking the servants to arrange a meeting with the Lord, as he had matters to discuss regarding his son. We all knew this was coming, right? Mok Dae-min showed up with a deal he thought would be easy to make. He wanted Jin Sang-gon to step down as the head of the Dead Sea Bureau in exchange for his son's life. Sang-gon, with no other option, agreed to hand over the state to Dae-min, but only for his son's life. He needed a day to think about this huge decision, and Dae-min, thinking he had control, agreed to give him that time. Now, once Sang-gon told his daughter Juryeong what was going on, she refused to accept the deal. She wanted to find another way to handle this, but her father explained that if they tried to force things, Yutak's life would be in danger. That's when John stepped in, even though he wasn't fond of getting involved. He suggested a plan. If Mok Dae-min comes back to demand the contract, they should set up a meeting at an agreed location. Once Dae-min accepts the deal, they would get Yutak without suspicion. Sang-gon, of course, didn't take kindly to John interfering, but John wasn't backing down. He grabbed a leaf, cut it into pieces, and showed his skill to prove he could be trusted. To support him, Yeoju stepped in and told her uncle to trust John, since he was the one who saved Golden City from its crisis. The next day, Sang-gon sent John and Kyo-young as escorts to deliver the contract to the meeting spot. The plan was simple. Once the contract was handed over, Mok Dae-min had to give them Yutak. But Dae-min, underestimating John and Kyo-young, thought they were just regular escorts. Big mistake. John wasn't about to let Dae-min off easy. He killed the people Dae-min brought with him, and Dae-min, realizing things were going south, started running towards the Black Tortoise Pavilion's Blue Flag headquarters. But John was already ahead of him. He showed up and ended Dae-min's life right there. With Dae-min out of the way, John began looking for the headquarters. He had already informed Kyo-young about his plan, and she was on her way to escort Yutak back to his family. She also told them to prepare for an ambush that night. Alright, so here's where things really heat up. Ju Jae-sung gets the news that all the members sent for negotiation are dead. Of course, he's furious and orders his servants to gather the remaining members and attack the Dead Sea Bureau come nightfall. This was exactly what John had predicted, and thankfully, he already told his people to get ready for the ambush. So as night falls, John steps out to confront the servants, ready to take them out. But of course, Jae-sung blocks his way. The servants manage to flee, but now John is locked in a one-on-one with Jae-sung. Jae-sung tries to use his hand fan to attack, but John dodges it easily. Then Jae-sung ups his game and uses his technique, the Storm Golden Fan 16 transformations, but it still doesn't land on John. Jae-sung, realizing he's got to end this quickly, goes all out with his next technique, Thunderclap Killer Fan, creating a massive blue tornado around John. But John, being the badass that he is, uses his blood spiral technique, blood spiral whirlwind, and defeats Jae-sung in one final blow. Before Jae-sung dies, he agrees to answer one question. John asks him if he knows the name Seol Soo-yeon. Jae-sung, however, has never heard of her, which is huge. This means Soo-yeon is still alive and hiding out there somewhere. John now knows the truth, and that's going to be key moving forward. After dealing with Jae-sung, John heads back to the Dead Sea Bureau, where the fight is still raging between Han-pil and the others against Jae-sung's men. But just when you think it can't get more intense, who shows up? Chu Dalhwa, the guy from the Kamseok family, the same family John served under. Things are getting heated again. Han-pil notices Chu Dalhwa's iron claws and immediately realizes this guy is no joke. Without wasting any time, he goes in to face him head-on. But here's the twist. More enemies rush towards Kyo-young, and as Han-pil tries to go help her, Dalhwa takes advantage of the distraction and stabs him. Not good, right? Now, things are getting even more intense. One of the enemies tries to go after Yutak, but just in time, John steps in to save the day and stop the situation from escalating further. As soon as John lays eyes on Chu Dalhwa, it hits him. He remembers the warriors from the Chu family he saw in Seal family. These guys are no joke. The Chu family is known for their martial arts technique, Dragon Claw Fist, and back then, John noticed Chang Sanmi wearing silver fangs, just like Dalhwa is now. This is a huge moment. It means that Chu Dalhwa is one of the sworn enemies John has been searching for. With that realization, John's demeanor completely changes. He looks at Dalhwa and tells him to come at him with his full strength. As Dalhwa is weighing his options, Han-pil sees an opening and tries to attack him, giving John the chance to land a solid hit on Dalhwa. Now, with things getting serious, John demands answers from Dalhwa. He needs to know what this guy knows about Chang Sanmi. The tension's building up. John proposes a showdown with Dalhwa. He says, if Dalhwa wins, he can walk away freely. But if John wins, Dalhwa has to answer all his questions and then leave. Han-pil is watching this unfold and notices something different about John's attitude. He starts thinking that it might be connected to the Kamseok family. Now the showdown begins. Dalhwa comes in strong, attacking John with everything he's got. But John? He's on another level. He blocks, dodges, and tracks every single one of Dalhwa's rapid moves. It's impressive, guys. Dalhwa's throwing attack after attack, but John stays calm and collected, keeping up with the speed and precision of the fight. Then, in a sudden burst, John jumps into the air and hits Dalhwa with his deadly blood spiral whirlwind technique, taking him down. After the fight, John demands answers from Dalhwa. He asks him about the faction he belongs to. Dalhwa responds using telepathy, telling John that he's from the West River Alliance, Black Tortoise Pavilion, and their leader is Yael Saon. John doesn't miss a beat and orders Dalhwa to take this message to Chang Sanmi about the revenge of the old man who erased his whereabouts, telling him that one day, he'll receive that revenge. As the sun begins to set, Kyo-young approaches John, offering him a drink. Kyo-young approaches John, and it's all about her brother. Han-pil warns her, telling her they need to be careful around John now that they know he's connected to the Kamseok family. Han-pil's been trying to figure out who John really is, testing his martial arts and philosophy, but none of the beggar fellows have heard of him. This only raises more questions. Then Han-pil brings up something important. He's heard about a new faction in the Kamseok province, called the Flying Dragon Gate. This faction was formed by merging the Kamseok family with the Kamseok Seol family. So now Han-pil's wondering, what exactly is John's connection to them? Why does John react so strongly when it comes to the Kamseok family? Now, Kyo-young tries a different approach. She's trying to get John drunk, hoping he'll spill some secrets. John plays along, drinking a bit and even recounting some of his past. But then, Kyo-young asks if he met his master in the mountains since his swordsmanship is so unique. John immediately sees what she's trying to do. She's trying to figure out his lineage. So, instead of giving her a straight answer, John simply says that he likes to be free and is just seeking the path that brings him closer to the power he craves. And, of course, he hints that changing, like a certain someone, meaning Soo-beom, might not be such a bad idea. And just as things start to settle down, we shift scenes. A group of people is being chased, and guess who shows up? Soo-beom. Seo-bu and his two sisters are being chased by the Flying Dragon sect, the same faction controlled by Chang Sanmi and Yayul. Once Subium hears they're from the Flying Dragon sect, he steps in, using his flowing 7 blades to take down all of them, leaving only one survivor. He asks the man, "Who is the leader of your sect?" The man replies that they only take orders from their superiors and have never seen their faces. However, they do know the names of the pavilion masters, Seol Sadeol and Chu Pilyong. This revelation confirms it for Subium. The Flying Dragon sect is a faction formed by the merger of the Chu family and his own family. Subium decides to spare the man's life, but warns him not to come back again or else he'll die. After the confrontation, Seo-bu thanks Subium for saving them. His sisters are hungry, so Subium takes them to a nearby inn. While they're there, Seo-bu fills Subium in on everything he knows. He tells Subium that the Kamseok-shu family and Kamseok-seol family joined forces to create the Flying Dragon sect and declare their independence. They tried to absorb other families into their fold. The Sib family received an invitation to join, but when they refused, the Flying Dragon sect attacked them mercilessly. In the end, only Seo-bu and his younger sister survived, and now they're seeking refuge at their uncle's house in Seonyang, Qinghai province. Since Subium is heading that way as well, they ask if he can accompany them. But as they're talking, Subium senses something suspicious. The people who were following them have come back for revenge. The man he spared earlier returns, but this time he's brought back up. Subium notices the leader. He's using iron claws to fight, and his presence feels completely different. His demeanor shifts to something darker, and Subium demands, "Are you all from the Kamseok-shu family?" Instead of using his sword, Subium decides to use the same technique that Gao Minran used before. When he unleashes it, he takes down the leader with a single, clean blow. Then, he turns to face the remaining enemies. Using the Azura Illusion Sutra technique, he swiftly defeats all of them. In that moment, Subium's appearance transforms into something terrifying, like the ultimate demon itself. Now, back at the Dead Sea Bureau, Sangon is deep in thought, trying to figure out how to rebuild the Bureau. He realizes he needs more funds than he currently has. Just then, John enters and offers a solution. John hands Sangon a receipt with 10,000 on it and asks him to write a promissory note to agency leader Yeoju. John explains that this money is from the people who kidnapped the third master. A few days later, it's time for the 80th birthday celebration of Master Namgung Seonyu, the foremost elder of the Namgung family. Upon hearing about the celebration, our squad heads to Luoyang, hoping to relax and take a break. While they're enjoying their meal, Hanpil and John notice a group of people following them. Hanpil suggests that the people following them might be members of the Black Veil, the assassins who had been after Kyo-young for a while. John, wanting to handle the situation carefully, decides to change seats to lure them out. But Kyo-young's patience runs thin. She draws her blade and charges at them. However, just as she's about to engage, John notices something, the amulet one of the followers is carrying. He quickly stops Kyo-young, signaling for her to hold off. The girl with the amulet steps forward, asking them to move to a different location so she can explain everything. She introduces herself as Tang Yua from the Sichuan Tang family. She's also the niece of Tang Chioni, the family head. The Tang family, as John quickly learns, is known for their deadly expertise in poisons and antidotes. They're capable of wiping out hundreds of people with a single drop of poison, and their needles are thinner than a strand of hair, lethal in their precision. Yua explains that they've been following John and his group because they suspect an ambush from the Black Veil. She wants to meet their leader. John, still cautious, takes out his sword and shows it to Yua. He mentions that it looks similar to the amulet she dropped earlier, suggesting both might have been crafted by the same person. Yua, intrigued, expresses a strong desire to meet this individual. John then suggests that if she explains the situation more clearly, they might be able to cooperate. Yua starts explaining her family's long-held regret. They possess an amulet that's been unfinished for years, a project that's always been a source of longing for the family. Recently, Yua saw the Black Veil's amulet and thought that if it was made by the same person who crafted her family's, they might finally resolve this family regret. And this person, according to Yua, is none other than Zhang Li Jae-jong. Kyo-young, who's been listening carefully, suggests that they travel together. After all, John is also looking for Zhang Li to repay his father for giving him the sword. Hanpil, always thinking ahead, asks Yua if the Tang family doesn't need to attend the Namgung family's feast. Yua explains that her uncle, the family head, and her grandfather, the elder, already went to the feast. She adds that they went there because they'd heard that discussions were being held about the establishment of a new sect called the Flying Dragon Gate, which would merge the Kamseok-Seol family and the Kamseok-Chu family. This bit of information confirms what John and the group had suspected. Chang Sanmi has now fully seized control of the Seol family. The scene shifts to a darker place where Dok Nagun, the Black Veil's vice lord, is holding Zhang Li captive. Nagun is forcing him to craft weapons for his members. He approaches Zhang Li and asks if the Thunderbolt arrow is complete. Now, the Thunderbolt arrow isn't just any regular weapon. It's similar to a lightning strike, an incredibly powerful crossbow bolt designed to destroy its target with a massive force. It's equipped with explosive powder at the arrowhead, making it even more lethal because it detonates the moment it hits the target. Only a special technician can make such a weapon, which is why Nagun is keeping Zhang Li as a hostage. If you remember, Zhang Li ran away from his home, chasing after a woman. Well, that woman is the same assassin that John killed. Nagun, however, lies to Zhang Li, telling him that Jumrin, the woman, has gone out on another mission. Zhang Li tells Nagun to wait 10 days, and the Thunderbolt arrow will be ready. Nagun is eager to use the weapon to take down John and Hanpil since they're the ones responsible for killing his members. But Zhang Li is planning something of his own. Meanwhile, John and his squad, along with Yua and her brother, head back to the Dead Sea Bureau. It's there that Yua asks John if they could talk privately. She brings up the idea of forcibly taking Zhang Li to her family, but John smiles and replies, telling her that he's seen all kinds of people in his life. In their eyes, he's seen everything from passion and desire to despair, disdain, and even sadness. When he looks into Yua's eyes, he sees a deep desire to uphold her family's honor and a faint fear of uncertainty about whether it will all turn out well. John then agrees that if Zhang Li decides to work for Yua's family, he won't interfere. He's willing to let Zhang Li make that choice for himself. Afterward, they return to the others to join them for drinks, but John and Yua are planning something in the background. However, John doesn't let Hanpil and his sister get too close, keeping them in the dark for the time being. On the other side, Nagun is testing out his Thunderbolt arrow. While doing so, he gets word that their scouting team has successfully infiltrated the enemy bureau. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he announces that it's time for the hunt to begin. A few days later, John asked Hanpil and his sister to set a trap to catch a Black Veil member. Once everything was set, John joined them, but as he did, he caught a whiff of the 1,000 miles chasing fragrance. If you're wondering what that is, it's a sign that the Black Veil members are nearby. John quickly informed Hanpil and his sister that the Black Veils were here, and the three of them prepared for the ambush. They countered the Black Veil's surprise attack, taking down their opponents with ease. Hanpil's sister noticed something strange about the attackers. They were the same mercenaries they had recruited earlier. Now, this was part of a bigger plan that John and Yua had put into motion, but we'll understand more of that soon. As the battle continued, Nagun, the Black Veil's vice lord, fired thunderbolt arrows at John. John, with his incredible speed, managed to dodge the arrows. But when the arrows hit the ground, they exploded. Thankfully, John's quick reflexes kept him from being caught in the blast. John dashed towards Nagun, but Nagun fired more thunderbolt arrows at him. John wasn't having any of it. He cut the arrows mid-air, preventing them from exploding. Seeing that Nagun was desperate, he pulled out grenades, trying to make a quick escape. But John immediately realized something. Nagun wasn't actually trying to run away. He was looking for a hostage to hold. John quickly caught up to him, but Nagun wasn't finished yet. He fired his special arrow, one made by Zhang Li. Zhang Li explained that it was meant to be effective when there are multiple targets. But when Nagun shot the arrow, something unexpected happened. It blew his arm off. It turns out Zhang Li had already known that Jumrin was dead and had planned this move, deciding to eliminate all the remaining members of the Black Veil. Before Nagun could react any further, John closed the gap and finished him off. The last remaining Black Veil member took off, heading straight for their hideout. But guess what? That's exactly what John wanted. You see, around this guy, there was a special scent, one that John knew how to track. This wasn't just a lucky break. It was all part of the plan. Now, let's take a step back and understand what's going on. Yua from the Tang family, along with her brother, hadn't lost track of the Black Veil mercenaries. They'd received intel that the Black Veil had been infiltrating various agencies and provinces under the guise of mercenaries. Yua figured out that the Black Veil was now actively looking for everyone in John's squad. That's when she and John came up with a clever plan. They created a special reagent that could detect traces of two deadly poisons, the thousands miles chasing fragrance and the soul-shattering bloodbath poison. The Black Veil mercenaries were known for using the soul-shattering blood poison, an incredibly lethal toxin. These assassins would carry a small amount of this poison for immunity, so John and Yua devised a way to spot them by having the mercenaries dip their hands into a reagent-dipped brush. When they did, a faint glow would appear, showing them exactly who they were dealing with. After that, they spread the thousands miles chasing fragrance on the identified Black Veil members, making it way easier to track them down. Hanpil and his sister played the perfect bait role, drawing the Black Veil into their trap. With all this in place, Yua and John began their pursuit of the escaping Black Veil member. Along the way, John noticed that Yua was tiring out. He could see she was pushing herself too hard, so he told her to head back and assured her that he would finish the job alone. He also promised that he wouldn't take Zhongli away from her, the one person she truly cared about. Before she left, Yua gave him a potion, one that temporarily made him more sensitive to the thousands miles chasing fragrance, ensuring he could track the Black Veil member even better. Now, just as the Black Veil member was about to kill Zhongli, John arrived just in time. He took down the assassin with ease. John then turned to Zhongli, telling him that he had come to fulfill the promise he made to his father. Zhongli felt guilty for abandoning his father, but John wasn't having it. He told him that what mattered most now was fixing the mistakes he'd made, and with that, John extended his hand to help him. John and Yua took Zhongli to visit his father, and after all this time apart, they finally reunited. It was a heartfelt moment. John then repaid the favor for the sword, as promised. But then, his father turned to him and asked, "Why is someone from the Sichuan Tang family visiting our house?" That's when John stepped in, explaining that Yua played a huge role in saving Zhongli. Yua, being honest and direct, told them everything that had happened up to that point. She explained how they stumbled upon the crafts from the Black Veil, which led them to hear about Zhongli's situation. After everything was out in the open, Yua asked Zhongli's father to let him work with the Tang family, offering him a life of honor, where he would be treated like a noble. Zhongli's father agreed, but made it clear that the decision would ultimately be up to Zhongli. As they were about to leave, Zhongli stopped John. He said that after all John had done for him, he wanted to honor him as a sworn brother. This, however, made John furious. He didn't want Zhongli thinking like that because having enemies, as John did, would make it dangerous for anyone close to him. John didn't want to see him die because of his connection to him. This reminded John of a time when Subium treated him like a younger brother. That moment hit him hard, and John realized the importance of brotherhood. So, in a moment of resolve, John took out his sword, and, with a swift motion, he injured both his own arm and Zhongli's arm. With that, they became blood brothers. From now on, John swore that anyone who dared to lay a finger on Zhongli, even harm a single strand of his hair, would face John's wrath. He would chase them all the way to hell and make sure they paid for it. As John and Zhongli were patching up their wounds, they were interrupted by the arrival of Tang Qionyuai, the head of the Sichuan Tang family, and the Grand Patriarch, Tang Mengzhong. With them, they took a carriage back to the Tang family home. Along the way, Mengzhong joked, asking John if he was now the son-in-law of the Tang family, considering it seemed like Yua and Zhongli would eventually become a couple. Since John was now Zhongli's brother, that made him, by extension, Mengzhong's son-in-law. John, not wanting to make a big deal of it, simply replied that it wasn't particularly remarkable. But Mengzhong, ever the perceptive figure, noticed John's inner strength and immediately realized something was off. He pressed John, asking where he was from, and John, quick on his feet, lied. He told them he was from a sect called the Lunar Gate, a sect that practiced the ancient lunar breathing techniques passed down through generations. Mengzhong, still curious, asked who John's master was. John quickly made up a name, saying his master was Tai Divine Monarch, Wun-Yeop, a great hero. But Mengzhong wasn't done yet. He asked John if he'd be willing to let him assess his strength, likely sensing the potential for a good challenge. John, seeing an opportunity to test his own abilities, agreed. So they set up a contest. Mengzhong's son explained that John would need to push an iron ball from its initial position, moving it halfway until it reached the drawn line, and then slowly withdrawing his strength. Both John and Mengzhong began using their inner strength to push the ball, and to Mengzhong's son's shock, the young martial artist, John, was actually pushing his father, Mengzhong, who was known for his strength. Mengzhong, impressed yet still analyzing, described John's inner strength as mysterious and subtle, soft yet strong, graceful, but with an immense and uncontainable evil chi lingering within it. But even when Mungjong fully unleashed his strength, he still couldn't push back against John's inner power. It was a clear display of John's remarkable skill. Later, they stopped at an inn. Mungjong, continuing his probing, asked if John had learned the last breath in the lunar breathing technique. John replied that he had not, explaining that he was still lacking in that area. However, he had another story to tell. John began to lie again, saying that the final step of the lunar breathing technique had a fatal side effect. While it could give immense strength, the more you mastered it, the more poison accumulated in your body. He told Mungjong that his master had discovered a way to counteract this effect and entrusted him with a mission. John spun this story, saying that, despite taking all kinds of elixirs, the poison would still build up in the body, and that there was a need for something that could maintain and exert continuous effects without losing potency. That's where the undying poison-resistant orb came in. John claimed it was the best item for preventing the deadly effects of the lunar breathing technique. His mission, he said, was to acquire the white jade version of the orb, the most powerful poison-resistant orb in the martial world. John knew this was a dangerous game, but it was a chance to get his hands on something extremely valuable, and he hoped Mungjong would take the bait. John had successfully manipulated Mungjong into searching for the white jade, and now all he had to do was wait. But let's shift the scene to the Golden City Escort Agency, where Uncle Samwon was busy going through some letters, trying to piece together what was going on. He read that the 10 great bureaus of Hanam were on the verge of collapse, and their positions were quickly being absorbed by 3 powerful bureaus: the Heavenly Dragon Bureau, the Jinan Bureau, and the Pegasus Bureau. These 3 bureaus had secretly taken down the others and seized their bases, but despite their actions, no illegal activities or connections could be found. On the surface, everything seemed clean, with no suspicious activities being revealed. Samwon moved on to the next letter, which revealed something intriguing. Among the 3 escorts accompanying Yeoju, the head of the Golden City Escort Agency in Nanyang, one of them, a large-built man, was identified as the Sword Demon Hanpil. The identities of the other 2 remained unconfirmed. But what caught Samwon's attention was the fact that these 3 had easily defeated assassins, and more specifically, they had managed to take down the notorious 3 demons of the north. This raised Samwon's suspicion even more. He couldn't shake off the memory of the aura John had emitted. It wasn't ordinary, and now Samwon was determined to figure out who John really was. Just then, Yeoju's brother rushed in, informing his uncle that their father's condition had worsened. Samwon immediately went to check on his brother, Song Il-san. Using the 9 Revolutions Profound Yang technique, Samwon tried to save his brother, but it wasn't easy. Il-san's blood flow was blocked, and Samwon struggled to get it back to normal. That's when something unexpected happened. The energy John had released before seemed to help, making it easier for Samwon to slowly reverse the blood circulation and push back the blockage. After the procedure, Samwon asked who had been looking after his brother during all of this. Yeohun answered, it was John. This revelation only made Samwon even more curious. Who was this mysterious John? Not long after, Il-san vomited blood, but his condition quickly shifted from bad to better, allowing Samwon to leave him there to rest. But as he left, Samwon couldn't stop thinking about the kind of background that could possibly result in someone like John with such tremendous power. Back with John. He's just been thanked by Tang Cheon for his hospitality, but before he leaves, Tang Cheon gives him a plaque. Now, John's not too thrilled about accepting it because he knows that by taking it, he's going to be tied down to their clan. But Tang Cheon insists, explaining that this plaque not only makes John an official member of the clan, but it also serves as a protective agent against poisons. After thinking about it for a bit, John decides to accept it. Tang Cheon then mentions that he'll give John the white warm jade next time, but John, knowing full well that accepting this offer might lead him into a trap, decides to turn the tables. He suggests, let's exchange the white warm jade, flipping the conversation into a deal. This way, he has more control over the situation. Just as that's happening, Yeoju, along with her uncle Samwon and Kyo Young, show up to welcome John. Samwon and the others head off to an inn, but this is all part of Samwon's plan. Yeoju then tells John that now that the issues with the Dead Sea Bureau are handled, they're going to be setting out on their journey again. They're heading to the Namgung family, and she says he'll accompany them for a while. After a nice feast, John heads outside to have a word with Samwon. Now here's where things get interesting. John gets straight to the point, noticing how unusually quiet the place around them is, as if someone had intentionally cleared the area. Samwon, sensing that John is interested in the Flying Dragon sect, assures him that since Yeoju trusts him, he's not here to cause any harm. But then, things take a sharp turn. Samwon orders 4 assassins to attack John. The assassins move in with a combined attack, but John isn't caught off guard. He leaps into the air, dodging their strikes. While he's still mid-air, the assassins go for a combined technique, thread formation. John tries to stop their move, but one of the assassins steps on his sword. Another assassin goes for a stab, but John dodges, and just when it looks like the fight might be over, one of the assassins reverses his momentum and attacks again. But John's not backing down. He counters with his blood spiral technique, and just as he's about to land a fatal blow on the assassins, Samwon steps in, halting the fight. He wants to continue the conversation with John. John and Samwon are sitting down for a drink, and Samwon thanks John for sharing his energy with his brother, Il-san, because without it, Il-san wouldn't have made it. John starts analyzing the situation. He realizes that even though Hanpil is part of the Miram Alliance, he couldn't recognize Samwon's true identity. Not only that, but a key expert from the Miram Alliance couldn't see through him. This got John thinking Samwon must be from the government, possibly part of a secret organization. And yep, John's right. Samwon is actually getting orders from the imperial family. Samwon then gets to the point. He orders Dango to block off the surroundings, and he explains that John's actions are actually aligning with what he's trying to do. Samwon wants John to take command of the 4 subordinates in his stead. He knows that the Flying Dragon sect is watching John closely, so while they focus on him, he can gather more information on the sect. But John isn't too keen on taking orders, so he refuses. Then Samwon drops a bombshell. He knows that John is looking for Lady Seol Soo-yeon, the eldest daughter of the Seol family. How does Samwon know this? Because Hanpil informed him about John's reaction to Chasami. Samwon offers something else, though, a deal. He gives John the chance to get his hands on 4 volumes of secret martial arts techniques, known as the 4 great strange martial skills of the world. The first one is the soul-shattering demonic sound technique, left by the demonic musician's son Choji-ai. This technique is said to be so powerful that with just one note from his flute, he could drive hundreds of martial artists insane. The second is the Great Sea Immersion technique, left by a man named Tomo Yul from Golden Bell Island. This technique lets its user move underwater with the same ease as a fish. The third one is the Mouse and Demon's Record, which contains bizarre techniques from the Mouse and sect. And the final one is the 3 deceptive demon secrets, left by the deceptive demon, Janggue. Samwon isn't even sure what's in this one, but he knows it comes from the Imperial Palace's secret archives. Now, here's the catch. John has to take charge of the 4 subordinates, and in exchange, he gets one of these secret techniques. John knows he needs to get stronger to face his enemies, so he chooses the 3 deceptive demon secrets. On top of that, Samwon gives him a yellow dragon dagger that will grant John the authority to command the 4 subordinates. This dagger makes any orders John gives as if they're coming directly from the imperial family. But there's a catch. John can't use the dagger to harm the imperial family, the government, or the common people. John then calls out Dango, the leader of the 4 subordinates. Dango reveals that each of the 4 subordinates has 4 subordinates of their own, and each of them has 4 more beneath them. John calls for the others, Bukho, Sukho, and Namho, and gives them his first orders. He tells them he doesn't want any of them hanging around him, and while their superior is away, they're all on leave. He also makes it clear that since they have such a big network, he doesn't like the idea of them knowing things before he does. Finally, he hands the golden dagger to Dango, explaining that all matters are now delegated to him. With that done, John dashes off to start training with the 3 deceptive demon secrets. He also assures Samwon that he'll keep his promise when the time comes. On the other side of things, Jin Jian fills Yayul in on some important news. The descendants of the imperial family and the Miram Alliance have been on the move recently. From this information, Yayul puts 2 and 2 together. He realizes that the one leading the Namgung clan's gathering is none other than Samwon, a servant of the imperial family. As for the Martial Alliance, an elder from the Beggars sect, someone skilled in gathering information, is also making moves. Yayul is sharp and understands the bigger problem is the Beggars. Since they can move around freely, they pose a significant threat. So, Yayul orders Jin Jian to take care of the elder from the Beggars sect. For a task like this, he sends the powerful Beom Seosoo, the soul-stealing demon sword, after him. Yeom has a personal grudge against the elder of the Beggars sect, making him the perfect candidate for this mission. Meanwhile, John is deep in training, working to master the 3 deceptive demon secrets. To truly master this technique, he needs to push his breathing and pulse beyond human limits. It sounds crazy, right? But John knows this is the key to transcending the human form. Normally, humans can't survive without their breathing and pulse. But if he can control these parameters, he could tap into a transcendent power. By blocking various meridians in his body and controlling his internal energy, John could reach a whole new level. The catch is, this technique is very different from the grating breathing technique. It requires abandoning everything that's natural for a human in order to become superhuman. John struggles with this. It's not easy, and all he's been able to do is work through 2 of the 3 chapters. Without the protection of the grating breathing technique, his meridians would have been seriously damaged. But John knows that if he masters these techniques, his blood spiral sword technique will reach an entirely new level. Just as he's pushing himself further, he notices Dong-ho watching him, so he confronts him. Dong-ho asks John for help to protect the elder of the Beggars sect. Now, remember, Beom Seosoo was sent by Yael to take down the elder. Also, we know Samwon and his subordinates are working with the Imperial family, and the Imperial family and Murim Alliance seem to be teaming up to take down Yael. Things are getting more complicated. But for now, Dong-ho's request is clear. He wants John's help. John, though, doesn't see the need to help. He's got the secret martial arts manual, and he could just run away to avoid more trouble. Dong-ho, disappointed, leaves, thinking that John values loyalty and promises. What he doesn't realize is that John doesn't care about any of that. John is all about his own path, seeking freedom, and he's not concerned with loyalty to others. About half an hour later, Dong-ho and his group are protecting the elder of the Beggars sect. But Beom Seosoo isn't just some ordinary martial artist. He's incredibly powerful. Dong-ho tries to sneak attack him, but Yeom is ready. He counters with the soul-stealing demonic sword technique. Things look bad, but just in the nick of time, John shows up, saving Dong-ho from a fatal blow. Even though John is holding on, Beom Seosoo is still holding his ground. This guy isn't easy to take down. When Yeom sees the elder of the Beggars sect trying to run away, he extends his technique to chase him down, but John, being quick on his feet, nullifies Yeom's attack just in time. Now, John is already exhausted since he's just finished his intense training, so he's not exactly at his peak condition for this fight. Despite that, Yeom decides it's time to go all out. He unleashes his full power, and Dong-ho, along with the others, tries to use their combined technique, thread formation, to hold him off. But John knows that's not going to be enough to stop someone as strong as Yeom. In a desperate move, John taps into everything he has learned so far. He uses the energy from the grating breathing technique to push himself to the limit. But this isn't enough either. John goes all out, using his 4th technique, the blood butterfly stealth, and finally manages to take Yeom down. The fight seems over, but John's body can't handle the strain. He enters the chi deviation state, a dangerous condition that could kill him if not stopped in time. Seeing this, Bukho steps in and starts sharing her energy with John, trying to keep him alive. One by one, the others join in, sharing their energy with him. But even with all of their power combined, it's still not enough. Just when things seem bleak, Samwon arrives and shares his energy too. Now, with everyone focused and working together, they're all determined not to lose John and make sure he survives. The next day, Yeoju and the others were starting to worry about John since they hadn't seen him for days. But they decided to continue their journey, trusting that John would show up when he's ready. On the other hand, thanks to Samwon and the others, John managed to survive. Now, Bukho is taking care of him, making sure he recovers. Samwon appears, thanking Bukho for stepping in and interfering with John's vital points to save him. It seems like Bukho is blushing a little, which shows she's starting to develop feelings for John after everything that's happened, especially after he came to their rescue against Beom Seosoo. Samwon also informs John that they plan to leave for the Namgung family tomorrow. After Bukho leaves, Samwon adds that the shadowless divine beggar they saved was delivering important information to the Namgung family. John reassures Samwon that he'll keep his promise since he received help from them. With that, John gets back to his training. But this time, something surprises him. Even though he's completely holding his breath and blocking his meridians, unlike before, his body is now naturally accepting the energy. Remember when John fell into the chi deviation state? Well, that was actually his plan all along. so he could finally master the deceptive demon's 3 secret arts. The next day, in Zhongyuan, the families from different places gather at the Namgung family estate. The Tang family is there, and they're approached by Namgung Xianyu, the grand patriarch of the Namgung family, and Namgung Hyejin, another important patriarch of the family. Mengzhang introduces Zhang Li, explaining that he's an esteemed guest of the Sichuan Tang family. After the introductions, Mengzhang and Xianyu step aside to talk privately. Xianyu reveals some serious news. The shadowless divine beggar arrived yesterday with important information. Yayul is making his move. Our squad soon arrived at the Namgung family estate, and Kyo Young was absolutely amazed by how gorgeous the place looked. Meanwhile, Yeoju and Han Pil went off to pay their respects to the head of the Namgung family, while John and Kyo Young decided to take a look around the surroundings. To John's surprise, he ended up meeting his brother and Yua sooner than he expected. The place was packed with all kinds of people, and among them were Weiji Zhongyun, the head of the Weiji family of Hebei, and Ping Eunri, the youngest member of the Punk family of Hebei. Zhongyun was looking for Yua, and Eunri told him she had seen Yua walking with a man she hadn't recognized before. They were talking to another man and woman. Zhongyun noticed John and Kyo Young walking nearby, so he approached them, asking if they were the guests who came with the Tang family. John replied, saying they were escorts from the Golden City Agency. Then, he jumped in and asked if Zhongyun was looking for Tang Yua. Zhongyun was impressed by John's quick insight, and as a result, he offered to be John's guide around the estate, which John happily accepted. As they were talking, a group of people arrived, and it turned out to be Lord Gongya and his subordinates, who were also paying respects to the Namgung family. John initially thought they might be bandits, but Zhongyun explained that the man with the twin axes was known as the mountain-crushing twin axes, Chiak Balshur. The big guy with the iron hammer was called the Iron Hammer Yama, Mak Yomte. Zhongyun went on to say that the scariest of them all was the head of the Ganga family, Ganga and Rak. This guy was known as the Twin Discs of Chaos, and he used 2 discs, only the size of a palm. But when those discs flew from his hands, they would target his opponent's neck with deadly precision. John got pretty excited hearing all of this. These weren't just your typical internal arts masters or martial demons. These were the kinds of people he wanted to test his skills against. But before he could get too excited, Zhongyun was approached by someone, Seomun Pyo, the 3rd son of the Seomun family. Using the power of his older brother, Seomun Deokyang, who held a government position, Seomun Pyo had resorted to underhanded tactics to try and bring down other prestigious families. Hold up, though. Have we seen this guy before? Even Kyo Young remembered him. It was the same guy she humiliated back at the inn. Seomun recognized Kyo Young too, and without wasting any time, he dashed straight toward her, clearly intending to attack. But before he could make his move, John stepped in and shoved him aside. Balshur then approached John, reminding him of the bandit's comment he made earlier. Balshur started laughing, saying that judging by how John figured out their occupation from 10 years ago, his observation skills were impressive. Balshur then invited John to have a drink with him in Yomte, and John agreed. While drinking together, John asked if he could learn a technique or 2 from them through a sparring match. However, they turned him down. They explained that if they started sparring with John, bad rumors about the Gongya family would definitely spread. Not discouraged, John quickly shifted the topic to a drinking game, suggesting they bet on who would fall first. Just as they were getting into the drinking spirit, Han Pil approached John, warning him about the unnecessary attention they were drawing. He explained that they couldn't afford to have agency leader Yeoju misunderstand them. John, however, made it clear that he would do whatever he wanted. Han Pil, with a serious tone, warned John that if he continued down the wrong path, he wouldn't hesitate to cross swords with him. John, firm as ever, replied that he would do things according to his own judgment. Han Pil's response was reasonable, though, reminding John that to gain the trust of others and work together, they had to align with each other's values. That's when John realized something important. It was time for him to go his own way and start taking matters into his own hands. After Han Pil left, the shadowless divine beggar came to visit John. On the other hand, Seomun Deokjo, the head of the Seomun family, had gathered with the other family heads to discuss what John did to Seomun Pyo. Deokjo declared that the Seomun family wanted revenge for yesterday's defeat and officially requested a sparring match with John. Let's get back to John and the shadowless divine beggar. The beggar, who knew John was from the Kamseok Seol family, came to repay his debt. Since John had helped him escape last time, the beggar owed him. He warned John that Seomun Juchi, the second son of the Seomon family, would come looking for him soon to avenge what happened the day before. The beggar told John not to take Juchi lightly. Why? Because Juchi had mastered all the techniques of the glass sword. If you haven't heard of the glass sword, let me break it down for you. As the name suggests, the blade becomes transparent like glass, confusing the opponent and making it difficult to see. But here's the real catch. When the blade shifts from horizontal to vertical, that's when you need to be extra cautious. The beggar wasn't done there, though. He dropped some serious intel. Samwon, who John knows well, is leading a secret operation under imperial orders. The yellow dragon dagger that Samwon gave him? It's proof of that. The beggar then revealed something big. He and Samwon are working together to investigate dark forces that are spreading into the Central Plains. They'd gotten word about a key figure in the Shady faction, the supreme leader of the Western Heavenly Alliance, known as Wun-Yeop, the monster of the esoteric sect. That's when John asked about Seol Subium, and the beggar confirmed that Subium definitely wasn't walking the righteous path. And now we get the connection to that sparring match with Subium. At the beginning of this video, it all makes sense, right? Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, John's duel with Seomon Juchi. The fight begins, and right off the bat, Juchi attacks with his glass sword. John dodges. But here's the thing. After his chi deviation, John's control over his breathing and energy has reached a whole new level. He's now got the gradient breathing technique and the deceptive demon's 3 secret arts down to a science. As John counters, Juchi somehow manages to dodge and gets behind him. Everyone's thinking John's about to lose, until John doesn't even flinch. Without even looking back, he blocks Juchi's attack and then uses the blood butterfly stealth technique to defeat him. And get this, the head families were all watching, and they were absolutely stunned by John's power. So right after the fight, John could feel it. Everyone was tense. All eyes were on him because of the deceptive demon's 3 secret arts. People were definitely on edge. So, what does he do? He walks up to the head of the Namgung family, thanks him respectfully, and then turns around and intentionally provokes the Seomon family before leaving. Yeah, that's John for you, cool and bold. Later on, while he's sitting alone, probably lost in thought and reflecting on everything, someone shows up, Buko. But this time, she's dressed up, and honestly, she looked absolutely stunning. John thanked her for saving him last time, and then he got curious. He asked her what her real name was. She stayed quiet for a second, maybe a little shy, so he threw out a suggestion. Bukmi. She blushed. Bukmi means northern beauty, and when he saw her reaction, you just knew she liked it. She said he could call her that, only if he was okay with it. But then Bukmi brought up the duel. She asked him if it was really all right for him to walk away like that. John told her he's been searching for someone for a long time, and now that he has a lead, he has to go find them again. And here's the twist. Bukmi asked him, is it Seol Soo-yeon? That question hit him like a lightning bolt. He immediately lunged forward and grabbed her, desperate to know what she meant. Do you know something? He asked. Bukmi calmly explained. There's a place called the Goddess Sect. It's a sanctuary for women who have nowhere else to go. A place where they're taught martial arts and academics. She stayed there herself for a while, and she told him that Soo-yeon might be there. John took a breath, thanked her sincerely for the info, and without wasting a moment, set off again, this time heading straight toward the Goddess Sect. Let's shift scenes. We're now inside the Namgung clan's main conference room, and this is where things get serious. All the major heads of the Miram world, yeah, the big players, have gathered. And right there, the elder from the Beggar's Sect begins spilling everything they've uncovered. So here's what we learn. There's a dark force moving behind the scenes, spreading across the Central Plains like wildfire. The group's name? The Seokian Alliance. And leading this alliance is a newly risen sect from Gansu province called the Flying Dragon Sect. They're not just growing, they're building real power within the Miram Alliance itself. At the top of this whole operation is a beast of a man named Gamapup. He's the supreme leader of the Seokian Alliance. Under him, his first disciple, who's in charge of the Alliance's daily operations. Below that tier are 4 major factions, Blue Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise. All 4 are led by direct disciples of Gamarup. Yep, that name again. Now among those 4, only the Black Tortoise sect leader has revealed his identity. His name is Yael Sahan. Here's the kicker, he's the son of the Western Heaven Alliance leader, and the last disciple personally trained by Gamarup. These aren't random thugs. This is serious. So now the Beggar Elder starts laying out countermeasures. Decades ago, martial masters who feared the rise of this cult had something very valuable inside 3 green jade Buddha statues. 2 of those statues have already been revealed, held by Han Pil and his sister. The third one? Still missing. Then he drops another bombshell. There are 2 living legends in the martial world, Wun-Yeop, the strongest martial artist alive, and Jang Manhwa, the second strongest. These 2? They're the reason the Seokian alliance has been quiet till now. They know they're no match against those 2. But here's the real problem. Gamapup is suspected to have already extended his influence into the Heavenly Demon Fortress. If he starts a civil war in there, it could trigger the biggest martial catastrophe the Central Plains has ever seen. And there's more. Jang Manhwa is secretly training a disciple, Subium. The beggar makes it clear, the Asura transformation, the ultimate technique of the demon cult, can't just be passed to anyone. If it's given to someone unworthy, they risk falling into enemy hands and vanishing without a trace. But something big, really big, is about to hit the Murim world. Now switch to the Heavenly Demon Fortress. Jang Manhwa, the man himself, has called for all the elders to gather right now. Meanwhile, outside at Sungam Mountain, 2 elite martial artists are patrolling the area when someone unexpected shows up, Subium. He's not here to fight randomly, he's here to see his master. But of course, the 2 guards don't just let him pass. They team up and launch a deadly attack using the soul-shattering twin sword technique. Subium? He's ready. He counters effortlessly using Asura transformation, Phantom Asura. That's right, Subium has mastered Jang Manhwa's ultimate technique. The moment those 2 see it, they know who trained him. Subium tells them calmly to take him to the fortress lord, and to keep it quiet. Let's pick it up from Jang Manhwa gathering the elders. He brought them together to talk about Un-Ryong and Pung-Ryong, and here's what he revealed. 10 years ago, he started training 2 young children in the secret techniques of the Asura transformation. But here's the twist, it wasn't the full technique. He split it between the 2 of them. But let's be real, we already know the truth. Subium is the one who actually received the secret manual. Now jump to Subium entering the Heavenly Demon Fortress. He's led to a room, and right behind that room, Jang Manhwa is there. He doesn't show himself. Instead, he uses telepathy to communicate. He apologizes for the way they're meeting. But there's a reason. The fortress? It's full of conspiracies. Dark ones. That's why Jang Manhwa has been hiding his true disciple, Subium. He used Ryong and Pung as decoys to keep the real plan under wraps. Then he tells Subium, this is just the beginning of his revenge. And here comes a name drop, Wun-Yeop. Jang Manhwa says John is also chasing down the forces behind the Flying Dragon sect. But while John operates in the open, Jang Manhwa tells Subium to stay hidden. He'll need him in the shadows for the coming war. Then he asks the big question, is he ready? Subium starts thinking back to John, remembering everything. And after that reflection, he makes his choice. He's in. He'll follow Jang Manhwa's path, even if it means stepping deep into the world of demonic arts. He's ready to become stronger, no matter what it takes. Now flip back to the Namgung family. Han Pil goes to meet the shadowless divine beggar, but here's the shocker. He calls him clan leader. Yeah, turns out Han Pil has been working under him this whole time. Since the very beginning. The beggar doesn't waste time. He warns that John is going to be hunted down by the Western Heaven Alliance, and to even stand a chance of catching him, one of their 4 top leaders will need to personally step in. Then he gives Han Pil 2 missions. First, find the last green jade Buddha statue. That's key. Second, and just as important, he wants John to go head-to-head with one of the Western Heaven Alliance leaders. Why? So they can assess the Alliance's strength through that fight. Han Pil's job? Watch that battle carefully and report everything. Meanwhile, John is out there, on his mission to find the goddess sect. But as the beggar predicted, things don't go smoothly. He gets chased down by multiple members of the Western Heaven Alliance. Just like the beggar said would happen. John was on his way to find the goddess sect when suddenly he got ambushed by enemies from the Western Heaven Alliance. He didn't hesitate, used his technique, and took down the first wave. But just when he thought he was in the clear, 2 powerful enemies showed up. And not just anyone. These 2 were on a different level. Du Zhang, known as the Jade Flute Demon Sound, and Bok Sung-tak, the Ninefold Poison Whip. What caught John's attention right away was that Sung-tak's weapon had a movement pattern similar to his own sword, but heavier and more brutal. And Du Zhang? He didn't wait. He launched a powerful sound-based attack through his flute aimed right at John. John managed to block it and even used his stealth technique to counter. But Sung-tak saw right through it and stepped in to protect Du Zhang. Then it got worse. Sung-tak teamed up with two others, and they all went after John. He dodged like a beast, but that flute technique came back again. Even though he blocked it again, the damage got through this time. John started realizing how serious this was. These guys weren't just trying to stall him, they were trying to kill him, and they weren't playing around. The coordination, the pressure, the attacks from every angle, it was overwhelming. John knew in that moment he had no choice. If he wanted to survive, he had to go all out. So he did. He took a deep breath, focused every ounce of energy he had, and unleashed Deceptive Demon's 3 secret arts, his strongest move, right in the middle of the fight. The result? Absolute destruction. He wiped out almost everyone there, including both Du Zhong and Sung-tak. But it wasn't over. A few enemies were still alive. One of them managed to slip through and got dangerously close. He was just about to land a fatal strike on John when Soo-yeon appeared out of nowhere. Just in time. She stepped in and saved him. After 3 long years, John finally reunited with Soo-yeon. And the moment he saw her, you could feel the relief. She didn't waste time. I handed him a pill to help him recover some of his strength. But before they could even catch a breath, enemies charged straight at them. Soo-yeon stepped forward, calm and graceful, and used her white crane swordsmanship, clean, precise, and deadly. She took them down with elegance. John didn't stay behind either. With the rest still coming, he unleashed his technique and cleared out the rest of the attackers. After the clash, they escaped a short distance from the battlefield, just far enough to get a moment's peace. That's when Soo-yeon began healing his wounds, quietly working on him while they caught up after all that time apart. She was truly happy to see him again after everything they'd both been through. Thanks to the pill, John regained a bit of his strength and stood back up, ready to fight again. But he wasn't fooled. He knew this wasn't the end. He told Soo-yeon that it's only a matter of time before the master shows up. He expected that the Western Heaven Alliance would go all out, and that meant only one thing. It was about to get serious. So John told Soo-yeon to flee while she still could. He would stay behind, play the bait, and buy her time. They hugged, just for a moment. Then it was time to fight again. But of course, nothing ever goes according to plan. Jin Jaeun and his group showed up. John used his technique again to take out the weaker ones, but Jin Jaeun wasn't just some pushover. He managed to stop the attack head-on. And just as John was about to go for the strike, boom, the big boss finally made his entrance. Yael himself arrived and didn't say a word. He just launched his ring straight at John, and John barely managed to block the attack. Now that Yael is here, things are about to get really intense. John looked at Soo-yeon and told her to run. But Soo-yeon hesitated for a second. She didn't want to just leave him behind, not after waiting 3 years to finally see him again. But John? He had that look in his eyes, full of strength and determination. He promised her, no matter where she goes in the Murim, he will find her. That was enough. Soo-yeon dashed out of the battlefield. Now here's where it gets real. As she was running, one of the enemies tried to ambush her, but Dong-ho showed up just in time and blocked the attack. Right behind him, Suk-ho and Nam-ho were there too, making sure she got away safely. Meanwhile, Yael stood there, calm and cold, and ordered his men to let her go. He said once they killed John, she'll give up anyway. Back on the battlefield, Yael went all in. He kept launching those deadly rings at John, forcing him to defend nonstop. Eventually, he caught an opening and was about to deliver a fatal strike, until Bukmi showed up and saved John in the nick of time. Jin Jaeun immediately tried to land a hit on her, but Bukmi blocked the attack with lightning-fast reflexes. Then Yael came again, pressing harder and harder. He threw words like daggers, reminding John that if he fails now, he'll suffer the same fate as his grandfather Hwang. That lit a fire inside John. You could see it, he snapped. John entered a rage state. He pulled out every last drop of internal energy, refined it using the Great Een breathing technique, and instantly wrapped it with the Deceptive Demon's 3 secret arts. He built all that pressure, all that tension, in his body, and then unleashed it all in one massive strike. Blood butterfly, heavenly flash. He lunged at Yael with everything he had. Yael took the hit, but he didn't go down. In fact, he was shocked. Not only did John manage to scratch his infamous dark ring, but he even made him bleed. And that just got Yael even more excited. John and Yael were going at it head-to-head, trading blows, and at this point, it was straight-up war. Yael was honestly shocked. He hit John with a serious attack earlier, but John just stood there, completely unfazed. That's when Yael knew he had to stop holding back. So boom, Yael unleashed his ultimate technique. He spread his energy everywhere and caused a massive explosion. But John? He wasn't sticking around for that. He grabbed Bukmi, dashed out of there, and jumped onto a small boat, trying to escape. But of course, Yael wasn't going to let them off that easy. He caught up. Then, Yael started talking. He said that from the moment he was in his mother's womb, he was raised to be a top martial artist, fed all kinds of rare and miraculous elixirs. But somehow John, with just a short time of training, managed to injure him and even crack the dark ring. That was insane. So Yael asked him straight up, "Where did you get that kind of inner energy?" If John answered, he might even spare his life. And you know what John said? He just smiled and said, "I don't know either." With that, the tension exploded. Both of them powered up, filling the entire area with their energy. It was intense. And right when it seemed like Yael was about to overpower him, Bukmi stepped in. She shared her energy with John. But it was way too much for her to handle. Seeing that pushed John over the edge. He got mad. Real mad. A furious energy surged around him, powerful, terrifying, and completely overwhelming. And the moment Yael saw that energy and that stance, he froze. He knew exactly what it was. That was the aura of the demonic hero, the one his master warned him about. The energy of the greatest under heaven. At that moment, Yael knew. John wasn't someone they could let live. Then boom, both of them clashed, unleashing their ultimate techniques in one explosive finale. And when the dust settled, the next morning, John and Bukmi were found unconscious on the boat. Balsher and Yomte showed up and pulled them out, giving them a hand. And just like that, my friends, Season 1 comes to an end.